The study session to order. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and get it started. It looks like it's Danny, or Larry, would you like to introduce it?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, if I can, talk a little bit about the two topics and to let everyone know that we have essentially we're going to take these two topics in 30-minute increments, but certainly if we need to speak longer on one, we'll continue to keep the dialogue moving forward. But the first item that we're going to talk about, that we're going to present to the mayor and council, are really some concepts on recreational facilities. And I know that all of you as a council receive the type of inquiries and calls similar to the staff about the capacities that we've got transpiring primarily with what I would consider to be baseball, softball fields, as well as multi-use soccer, football, and the like fields within our community. Obviously, we have been a growing community, and we are beginning to see some increases at our capacity levels related to the options that we've got available. I've got Danny Gallegos that will present to the mayor and council on the specific scope, and then ultimately I'll speak a bit about potential financing options for the mayor and council for your consideration and talk through the next steps on both of those. But with that being said, I guess I would also say one additional item before I ask Mr. Gallegos to begin his presentation. We obviously, from a timing perspective, have finished the community services master plan that really drove some of the information that we're presenting. Danny and his team have been doing a fair amount of research of what the approach that other cities within the state of Arizona are utilizing to deal with the capacity issues that we may be having with these various facilities. One of the key elements, and an important message that I want the mayor and council to consider through all of this, is obviously we're seeing costs for all construction of many of our infrastructure projects increasing, certainly at a rate that is much faster than what we're seeing the interest rates, as an example, on any type of debt financing that may be available. And so with that, I'll ask Danny to start his presentation, and then I'll pick back up when he's completed.
Thank you, Larry. Mayor Fitzgibbons, members of the council, I'd like to start with this first slide. If you recall, about a year and a half ago, we went through a master plan for community services. It was quite an extensive document. You can get it online to look. These are just a couple of concepts that were brought up. A lot of what we're doing with the master plan is upgrading a lot of our facilities or plans to do those types of things, but two of the master, or part of the master plan, were concept plans. Right now, the city does not need additional land to develop. Right now, we have areas that we should be developing first, and a couple of those areas are at the Paul Mason Ed Hooper Park area. As you can see in this first one, this is the first master plan. You can see our current baseball fields and softball fields, and then the rodeo grounds below that. And then to the west, you can see another cloverleaf, which will be a term you'll hear from time to time. It's an easy way to explain 4 fields with parking, additional multi-purpose fields that begin use for multiple sports, and then open turf area for special events possibly, and then racket center down below to the south end. Now, we are getting pickleball courts, as you know, at Dave White, so that might not be as needed much in the future. Now, as I go through this, it won't include all of this, but this is the concept for the future. As you look at to the other side, you can see where our existing recreation center is, and then the aquatic center just to the south of that as well. That was the concept plan of where the next one should go. When you put a pool next to an existing recreation plan, you save on a few things like front desks and things like that, and possibly including some locker rooms that can be utilized both for the internal and the external. And then again, it would be used year-round as well, or determined on what council decides they would want to do for future use, but would include a heated pool. Just to give you, wrong way. Just to give you an idea, this was just presented to you, I just think a couple of council meetings ago, about the city survey, and these are just a couple of things that they ranked the recreational facilities. As you can see, the swim complex, which we would call aquatic complex, and multi-purpose fields are at the top of the list. So just a little bit of reminder, that's why I threw that in here. And this next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about the capacity. I know you hear it all the time, but this kind of gives you a little idea on what the staff are dealing with. Luckily, they've recently put in a field allocation guide. They did that originally for best practices to keep it fair on how you can rent a field, when you can rent a field, keeping it as fair as possible. Well, it's come into play where it's helped us and help the community club teams, coaches, leagues, rent facilities. Just to give you an example of what it's like to rent a field Monday through Friday. If you wanted to rent O'Neill South on Mondays since January 1st, there was 1 day available for you to rent that field. It was taken 21 of the 22 days. O'Neill North, another example. Thursdays, there was 1 day that you could have used, or there was a day open. Sometimes that's Mondays usually because there's a holiday, so people don't rent it as much. But if I showed you this other list, there's very few days that you can, especially Monday through Thursday. Friday, there's more opportunity for you to rent the fields, and Saturdays and Sundays, there is more opportunity. But with this community, there's so many people trying to practices, different games, because they have other things going on the weekend. But that's the biggest time of when we have people requesting fields. Right now, staff are jigsaw puzzling where to put people, where to put the kids. Usually it's on a daily basis, but the field allocation has helped us to determine these fields. Oops. Just want to give you some ideas on some of the areas. These are new complexes that are in different cities throughout the valley that have been open for the past year. So here we have City of Avondale Aquatic Complex. This is a $29 million project, and you can see I don't have a lot of pictures for the facility. It's quite a big footprint. It has a large lazy river. This is the smaller slide area, zero depth, and you have the bigger slides in the background. This is the City of Surprise Aquatic Complex. Now that's being turned over to the City of Surprise. May 1st, I actually spoke with the CIP person that works for the City of Surprise, and you could see down at the bottom that does include a firehouse. That's not included in the price of this $31 million facility, but there is a little bit of park space over there. That's the concept plan they originally started with. This is what they have now, and you can see some of the slide areas as part of the recreation pool. Now we have Town of Queen Creek. That complex just opened up last month, I believe March. Am I correct in that, Brandon? Last month. And it was part of a $72 million project, but that included the recreation center, similar to what we have now. That's why I wanted to include some of these areas. It does have a teaching pool, little lap pool. It has a zero depth area, slides, lazy rivers, which I'll show you here in just a moment. This is the lap pool that they have. This is also a year-round pool that's used by WaterX people, and it has some diving well as well. And it also has the extensive slides, lazy river, as part of that. That project was also done with the different bonds that we talked about that we're looking at. This is the only one that's not done the same way, the financing part of it. This was just a sample that I wanted to share with you. This was Legacy Sports of what it looks like to have two clover leaves next to each other. They're connected where you can walk back and forth, some of the players and families. This is actually Red Mountain, City of Mesa. This one was done about a year ago. This was a $27 million project. It included this clover leaf, softball field, baseball fields, the parking areas, the landscaping, the infrastructure, and it also included these fields here you see to the left-hand side. Those are actually City of Mesa fields. So that's something that we would look at. They don't look as well defined as you would see some of the fields. You want them that way so you can make fields go in any direction you want. It helps some of the pitches get pretty damaged from all the playing, so you can actually move them around. So I just threw that other picture in there to give you an idea of a clover leaf next to some multi-purpose fields. So we actually spoke with a construction company, one of the construction companies that actually built Surprise, to give us some ideas of what some of the costs will be. And they gave us some different phased areas, because when they gave us the original numbers, we thought that going into different phases would be the best option for right now, because to build out this entire area would be pretty extensive. But if you look at the red area over where the Cloverleaf is with the parking, it kind of looks a little like looking above the Starship Enterprise, if you kind of look at that. And then you have the parking and then the multi-purpose fields over there. And that would include the infrastructure, roads, parking, hardscape, soft gates, and amenities. Total cost estimates about $39 million for those particular areas. Now, if you look at the estimates for the Aquatic Center, and we took those numbers, they gave us the numbers for that. We took those numbers from some of the things that were being done for these current pools. Now, obviously, our footprint's a little bit different, so that will also, depend on what the infrastructure will cost. The parking, entrances, exits will all have a matter. And of course, when we get down into what it is that we want it to be and what kind of play features we want, and that would be in the infrastructure, main and recreational heated pools. So it's recommended that if this goes through, if there's a decision we ever build these pools, that the main pool and the recreational heated pools be separated. Part of that reason is because the main pool can be heated separately, so you can have year-round, more year-round swimming, lap swimming. We also have four high schools that utilize our current pool right now, so those teams are growing as well. So those are hard in the fall to even, they fill the lanes up. And locker rooms and amenities with a total cost of $27,700,000 are the estimates coming back right now. That includes the infrastructure costs. That's where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Danny.
Any questions of the mayor and council on the scope of the projects? And obviously, the cost estimates, we want to stress that we've not had any level of design. This is more of really trying to take today's construction costs and ultimately overlay that in the scope, which can obviously be adjusted, but does include the amenities that you would need with the parking and the restrooms and those types of things that would normally be necessary to facilitate those types of facility uses. So if there's no questions on the scope itself.
Any questions? Go ahead, Matt.
We got one. If you go back to the picture of Paul Mason,
Sure.
for lack of a...
Here.
So what you're saying is just the red and the orange, but not the blue?
Correct. That would
Okay.
be a different
Because we
phase.
were talking about that, and I didn't know how far we could get with our money.
Those two areas are about $39 million. Now, does it mean that we can't get in an extra
Would it be possible?
fields?
Yeah, I was thinking if we could add that field in the blue, maybe, the multi-use fields.
And that's always a possibility.
I know, because the cost jumps up, but it's not going to get you cheaper, right, Brian?
Right.
Right.
If we could maybe add one more set of fields, which I know we're not doing details right now, but I would
Something to look at.
like that. Yeah, something to look at.
Trust me, I thought about the same thing there. I'm like, well, let's look at where the costs come back and the design come back. But if we can add one or two more fields at least, if not three more fields, that would be beneficial. And if we can somehow connect them to have more playing space, because sometimes I think, actually even Brandon said the other day, sometimes we have to look of not where we're at, but where we're going and where our city's going. I mean, you talk about that in planning and zoning all the time, but it also includes recreation on what facilities are going to be needed within 5 to 10 years, because even if these are still a couple of years out, if everything goes according to plan, moving forward. So that's something to think about and look at for the future.
Which is why it's good you had your master plan done, Danny.
Exactly.
Right.
I know.
If we can get more than those two phases done, it would be a benefit to the community. More playing space would help the youth of the community.
Did you have a question, Don?
Well, I did, but I think you just answered it. So the basic project that we're talking about tonight would be the 39 million plus the 27?
Yes.
Okay.
Rough estimates.
Yeah, those are rough estimates. This particular phase, we did ask a construction company that built Surprises to give us some preliminary costs based on what their experience is recently. And so there's some of the numbers that have come back, but obviously we don't know what's underneath there at this point. And when the design comes in and the connections, that's where a lot of the work's going to come in. You think it's just clear the field and throw some grass down, but there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to go underneath there for the sprinkler systems and the type of grass that you would want to have there takes a little bit more than just throwing it down, right?
And it's funny that you say that because I get it all the time. Why can't you just get a field and put some grass on it and let people just play out there, you know? So
People get hurt.
obviously it's not that easy, but no, and to your point, as far as, you know, this was a master plan, it's definitely something that we've been looking at. We know the need in our community as we continue to grow, and we know the importance of, you know, kids playing, you know, sports and, you know, being active and, you know, away from their phones and interaction and, you know, with other children. So we know the importance of this, but obviously it's how we're going to pay for it. And so, you know, that was definitely one step to see where we are to put together the master plan. And so now, you know, all of us have been getting, and we see it, you know, I mean, we're out there, plus we're getting people that are constantly coming up to us and asking us when we're going to move forward on something in this master plan. So that's why we're here today, the discussion to see what, you know, where we are, how we can finance it, and just kind of get estimates of what the cost would be. So Larry, you were going to go ahead and give some feedback on that.
Yeah, and if I can, Madam Mayor, thank you. And I just want to make a point of clarification for everyone here and watching. When you talk about one block of the multi-use fields, Danny, that's actually three, that could be
Yeah.
3 soccer fields in one
Right.
one box. So we'd,
Yes,
if we
that's
were
not
able
just-
to expand to the next box, that would in essence be 6. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Yes, and it looks like one field, but really it's you can put
They're like
3 side by
three
side, I
fields.
guess there. And if you're talking about 5-year-olds, you can probably put 20 fields out there. So.
Danny, I got a quick question for you. As these fields, you know, as Matt was saying about going ahead and trying to price estimate this extra field in there that's in the blue, I know in construction, sometimes if you build more, the second one or the third one could actually, it goes down in price because they're already there, they're already moving dirt, they're already got the water pumps in place, they've already got, and so the expansion, I would just encourage you to look into what the price estimate, if it goes down in price on the extra fields. You know, adding an extra field it's actually cheaper on that third field or whatever.
And that's definitely something I'll look into when we get to, if we get to that point of getting those estimates. What if we do this, or if we don't, can this include this cost? It's definitely something I want. It's something we did with the pickleball courts, and we're in that current discussions now, and we definitely do it with that, because if we can get more fields, even if it were just one more field would be a benefit to the community.
Right.
Getting 3 would be ideal.
Just keep in mind, if you add more fields, you need more parking too.
We need more parking, we need more maintenance, we
More
need more
roads,
people,
yeah,
we need,
so-
yeah,
Yeah.
all the above, absolutely. But like you said, the price isn't going down, so.
No.
Right.
Yeah,
Our
this
community's
concept
growing.
plan doesn't mean that the fields can't come south of those multipurpose fields. This is a
Yeah.
concept plan. So
Put it here instead.
if you put that parking over there, you could move the open turf area to the west and bring those other fields down possibly, so the parking can be utilized. Because part of my thoughts were too is that parking right there, maybe we don't need as much if we only have 3 fields, but if we do some more fields and bring them down, we could possibly include that in the parking. So those are ideas.
Do you know typically which costs more, the parking in the roads, the streets, the parking structures and all that kind of stuff, the lighting, or is it the actual fields with the sprinklers and stuff like that?
What, you mean what costs
Which,
more?
yeah, which in your experience in the past, when you're building these things, what does most of the money go to? Does it go to the parking, the lighting, or is it the actual sprinklers and the grass and the maintenance?
The
and stuff?
infrastructure, getting it around the fields itself. The fields itself, just the field is probably about $8 million. That's including the lights. So it's really getting to the point of putting the grass down and the dirt down, the rock, the things. That's the bigger cost, is the infrastructure cost, getting things done. So,
Okay.
and when they did these estimates, they based some of that, and when you look at some of their infrastructure costs, that's where a big amount was. Originally, when we got some numbers back, they said, yeah, the fields are about $8 million for that clover leaf. But then when they brought back all the infrastructure costs, that's when it rose considerably.
Okay.
Questions yet, or Larry will go through
Sure.
go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, Madam Mayor and members of the council, I'll spend just a few minutes talking a little bit about the finance options that might be available and what we've looked at from a general obligation, specifically from a general obligation perspective, and I think it's important because of the timing that we may be on. I want to talk a little bit about budget authority in general, and ultimately project timeline, and I may need Mr. Gallegos to assist me with that, but that last item. But in these particular cases, we really have a few options that we can pursue. The city of Casa Grande has always looked at attempting to what I would consider to be pay-as-you-go, assemble the cash and build. Just to give the mayor and council a context, we would be utilizing funds that may be generated through development impact fees, perhaps construction sales tax and the like to build a project of this nature. But if you consider just the estimates that have been introduced tonight, $67 million for what has been proposed with the four baseball, softball fields, the 3 multi-use fields, and an aquatic component. To give everybody in the audience and listening tonight, to give you a context, we have been collecting development impact fees on similar types of amenities for a number of years, and we've roughly collected about $8 million. So that will show you the difference between the revenue streams that ultimately are being collected through development in contrast to the costs associated with building a complex of this particular nature. So you immediately begin to think that it's very likely going to be a project that we're going to need to pursue some level of financing for. And there's really been 2 mechanisms that the city of Casa Grande has used over the years. One that is based on sales tax dollars, that we're pledging sales tax dollars. And we've built some facilities in the community utilizing those types of funds. In fact, the Paul Mason Sportsplex and the Aquatics Center that was built in 1997 was done under that particular scenario, where the council would increase sales tax for the life of the bond and ultimately would use that to pledge against the cost of the project. The second, I will say that is certainly an option that remains available to the mayor and council today, but all of you just went through our budget retreat less than a week ago, and you hear the demands that we're facing with other types of capital infrastructure, such as roadway improvements, right? That's going to be, when you compare the need and the roadway improvements that we need to make and expansions, ultimately those are going to be a lot more than what we're even seeing today with our recreation facilities that are being proposed. So that brings us to a general obligation, and the mayor and council is well aware of the fact that Casa Grande has utilized general obligation bonds very strategically over the years. And in the past number of years, we've used them specifically to in 2006, there were a number of questions to build the rec center, as an example, to build a public safety facility. In 2020, our voters supported us in levying secondary property taxes to ultimately build the roadway infrastructure on Treckle and McCartney that is underway today. So you'll see that we've had some support by our voters. The important difference is that one is a sales tax, and one is a property tax. And in this particular case, general obligation bonds require voter approval. It's levied on your full cash assessed value. Some of the good things that I would like to report tonight on that particular funding tool is that, number one, in 2020 we went to the vote, or was it 2022? 2022, excuse me. 2022 we went to the voters. And since 2022, we have seen, as we had anticipated at that time, we've seen very dramatic increases in our assessed values in the communities because of the growth that's transpired. And so what that ultimately does is establish an authority, a capacity that ultimately the city could pursue in general obligation bonds. And we'll provide, if that's the tool that we're so directed to move forward with, and we ultimately will provide more detail on this. But our capacity limits have moved in 2022 from $128 million of total capacity for projects into fiscal year 25 of $255 million. So it's almost doubled in size as far as what is available to capacity. Obviously, there is a based on the amount of debt that's issued and the like, and there's a variety of items that we can look at as we put together a financing plan for this. For example, we could take some of that development impact fee and apply to drive this down where we're actually borrowing less money, as an example, could be an option. But essentially what we're finding is that our secondary property taxes, and which is 100% used to pay for the debt for those projects that the voters have approved, ultimately has dropped as well over the years. We are proposing as a staff a slight increase this upcoming fiscal year simply because of the amount of debt that has to be serviced. And as you issue that debt for the various projects, there's an amortization schedule, and they come due at different times. But there will be a slight increase in this upcoming fiscal year. However, the amounts that have been proposed and what would even be proposed in this particular scenario have been less than what we've anticipated as we've issued debt in the past, less to the property owners on the assessed value of their homes. And so I can get into a little bit of detail if you'd like, where really a lot of this depends on the sizing of the bond. Do we want to use the general obligation as the option, as an example? And if so, do we want to buy that down with development impact fees? We can give the council specific numbers if the general obligation route is the route that we elect to move forward. But I think it is important to let everyone know that general obligation bonds can only be taken to the voter for their consideration on a November ballot. And so if for us to be able to make a November ballot in 2025, the mayor and council ultimately will need to call for an election on May the 5th, and you would need to pass the resolution that establishes the scope, the question that voters would be considering, which would talk about the scope of this project, and would also set a limit of what we would be able to, and capacity that we'd be able to pursue if the voters were supportive of this particular question. And so there's some work that needs to be done in the next couple of weeks if that's the route we're going, compared to a sales tax that ultimately can be considered in a variety of manners, and can be taken to your voters if you'd like to take it to voters at different ballots. And so the other important message that I want to point out, and Danny was right, we've done a fair amount of planning for these types of amenities over the years with the Community Services Master Plan, as well as with the Design Concept Report of Paul Mason Sportsplex, Ed Hooper Park expansion in general. But there's not been any type of civil design that's been done on any of these. And so if we were going to pursue a project of that nature, we would have to design both of those projects starting from scratch. That ultimately adds time to a project schedule. And Danny, I'm going to maybe ask you to opine, but this is something that if we start today, you're probably looking at 24 months plus before you begin to get to a point that you can turn on the lights and step on a field or get in a pool. And that's just best case guess, I mean, at this point. And obviously, I mentioned a minute ago that budget authority becomes important. I don't necessarily know that there would be a number of changes that we would be proposing to the fiscal year 26 budget that we just introduced to the mayor and council. Maybe we would include the design as an example into the budget. But as far as the capital expenses, my sense is they'd be happening at the tail end of fiscal year 26 and likely primarily in fiscal year 27. But regardless of the direction we get tonight, we ultimately can make those changes into our fiscal year 26 budget proposal as well. And with that, Danny, unless there's anything you'd like to add to the comments that I've just made?
Nope, you're about 24 months. When I researched some of these cities,
Yes.
it was about when they got approved, even when the final approval from voters came through, it was still about 2 years out.
I guess just one other point I think is important for our community to understand. Mr. Gallegos outlined some of the projects that are being done in some of our neighboring communities, and you heard him say that a number of those were general obligation questions that went to the voter, and Queen Creek appears to be the exception. They pursued other types of financing, very likely a combination of development impact fees and the like that went into that project. But ultimately, if you're going to accelerate these types of amenities at these types of costs, you're typically going to have to pursue some level of financing in order to get a bigger project done today versus building as you go. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'd entertain any questions.
Any questions, comments? Matt? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so, like most of you, I would guess, I've heard from a lot of community members, especially those with kids, And also in my real life, daily life, I deal with people that are retired. And I hear from both ends, from the kids, like more fields. We travel to all these other cities all the time, and it takes a lot of our time. Why can't we host them here in our town? You know, and the thing that keeps coming back, especially with them, is, hey, and this gets me, is, man, look what they have in Maricopa, you know? And so that's the big one I always get. And, you know, Maricopa is a lot younger city than we are as far as incorporation, but then their tax rates too, and I got some information here. So for a similar house in Casa Grande and Maricopa, the taxes in the Maricopa house, which is assessed at less dollars, is $1,872 a year. The similar one in Casa Grande is $1,368, so $500 a year difference in just taxes, and that's why they have some of those things, because they do pay those higher taxes. And also their sewer and trash rates are about $20 a month higher than ours are, almost 30. So that's something to think about. You know, when you compare amenities, you have to compare everything that goes into it, you know. So we're still investing in roads and infrastructure, but this is a good way to invest in our youth and our community, because a lot of the people I deal with, the retired community as well, they want pools. They want heated pool they can use year round at the rec center. Our rec center is already doing gangbusters, right, Danny?
Yes.
With all ages, you know. So I'm thinking that, you know, this would be a great asset to the rec center as well, with a pool, especially a heated pool for our swim teams, as well as the retired people that like to do the aerobics and everything, so they can do it more times. Because I hear about when LA Fitness closed, there was a big hole in the community of spaces to use like that.
Yeah, water X classes are very popular for year-round pools, heated pools. So they, believe it or not, they fill their classes.
And you go back to the community services survey, not only a pool, but heated pool was right up in the top, almost even votes right there. So that's what we have. And this is not investing in roads or this is all part of a big plan that I think we have as a city, you know, to do different things. And if we would have had a crystal ball 5 years ago, a lot was different, but maybe we would have done it then. But, you know, now's the time. It's not getting any cheaper right now. And one question, Larry, do you know, I don't know if you know this, if you don't, it's fine, but approximately how much it would add to the property tax?
Well, I think it depends on ultimately how we would go about financing and what we would be asking capacity-wise. What I can say is that roughly, and this is very estimate, and
Yeah,
again, we
I
certainly
appreciate
can
that.
have our financial advisors put together some specific numbers. But on $50 million, if we were to issue a $50 million bond at the current tax environment that we see today, that would essentially create a 50-cent per 100 assessed value increase to service that debt. So 50 cents on a $100,000 house is, what would that be? Somebody help me out, my finance days. $50, right?
So an average
Yeah,
house
so
is
if an
$350,
average house is 350 to 400, it's $200.
$200.
$250.
So we still be less than a lot of our neighbors property tax wise, which I mean is not something, but that's again how all this works and how you get these amenities. You know, where their primary tax is $364 and ours is 96 cents, Maricopa to Casa Grande. So, and that's primary, not even secondary. So, you know, we have some room, but we hear it all the time, is investing in our community, investing in our youth. And I mean, we've got people that have been coming to me and saying, hey, how can we get this done? So here's an option.
Any other questions? No, oh. No? Okay. Bob, are you raising?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
go ahead, Bob, sorry.
One thing that I think the council has to keep in mind and ask itself, and by the way, I'm all for this. I think it's wonderful. I'll certainly be a yes vote when it comes around. But I think the other voice we hear loud and clear is road improvements and expansion. And I think the common thought that I got out of the budget meeting was we would likely go a bond issue paid for by property tax for the recreation improvements, and the road improvements would likely be sales tax increase to pay a bond. I've been listening to the numbers because I don't want to come close to outstretching our bonding capacity. But I think we have two issues, two projects, and I think we need to at least consider that at this point. Like I said, I'm all for this. I'm not trying to throw cold water on it. But we've got a lot going on.
Madam Mayor, if I can just build on that, and Councilmember Huddleston is absolutely right, following the budget retreat, and we're here to specifically talk about this project, so I don't necessarily want to go too far with it. But certainly the need for us to evaluate options to fund infrastructure today is going to be something that this council is going to hear about in other study sessions as well. And so I simply introduced the sales tax option as an alternative to the council, because it is, quite frankly, it is an alternative. I think under these particular scenarios, the general obligation bond is what staff has been asked to evaluate by our community. And I think, as you hear, a number of communities are utilizing that option as they're financing this type of infrastructure.
Thank you. And I think that's a good point, Bob, what you brought up. And I don't want anyone to think that this is just something that we thought about last week and decided, let's do it. We have a couple weeks to move this forward. This is something that, we as a council have been talking about. We have the land. We've been trying to find ways to bring more of these amenities to the city, but it's difficult. And we all know as we continue to grow, some of the challenges that we face. We did the survey, the community survey, and people are talking about roads. That public safety and roads are the top two issues, and right below that are amenities and fields, and we get it every day. So we as a council and staff are trying to prioritize making sure that we're maintaining low property taxes, all while creating, creative ways to serve our community and change services, to increase our service levels, but still keep our tax rates at a reasonable level here. So we know that some of these projects are difficult. So moving forward, we know infrastructure is key. We've been investing millions in sewer, roads, all types of infrastructure, fields in our, communications department. And then we have another 200 million in the budget coming up here. So how do we, pay for something like this? And I think it's important for the public. I think it's important for the public to let us know. We know this is a priority, and I think it's something that's needed. We hear it every day from people that are expressing, the need for more fields and space for our young people and all ages, as well as the pool and aquatics. So I think it's a good way to get this moving on our whole strategy of improving and building more infrastructure in our whole community. So I think as far as moving forward, Larry, I don't know what you would need from us at this time.
Well, what I'm hearing in combination of tonight's feedback, as well as from the discussions that we've had in other meetings, the budget retreat primarily, is that the idea of attempting to put a ballot measure on the November 2025 ballot is something that you would like to pursue, and that would require the mayor and council to call an election. I don't think statutorily, and I'll look at Brett when I say this, statutorily, I'm not sure council needs to do that, but it's something we typically have you do. And you would need to consider a resolution to put the actual question that describes the scope of this project and the amount that we would be pursuing. You would need to consider that at the next council meeting, May 5th.
Right.
The council, Pinal County requires that those two items be notified by May the 8th. To make the November election. And so we would, if based on what I'm hearing, we will begin to work on crafting those two agenda items for the mayor and council at May the 5th for your consideration. And at that evening, we ultimately will present more information related to some of the financing that I talked about tonight as well.
And Larry, I think when we move forward too, as this goes out, again, I think it's important for us to show the community all of the other infrastructure that's moving at the same time.
Right.
So it's not that it's just this one project we're asking to increase property taxes. There's so much that we're currently doing. you know, and it's important for us to outline all of that, of all the things that are happening right now and how much we're investing in all these other things. So
Right.
as we put the message out and communication, it's going to be important to do that.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions?
No.
Okay. Okay, next item. Sorry, I know, 20 minutes for the next one.
It's a study session.
We have a question here, is that okay?
No, it's a study session. It's a study session. So,
Yeah.
only way you can do it.
Madam Mayor, it is a study session, but the pleasure of the council to field the questions.
I think it's fine if you have a question. I don't know if we can answer, but go ahead.
You need to come up to them, yeah.
Can you come up to the
You gotta push the
microphone?
mic.
Yes. Name and address too?
Probably.
Can you
No,
give
I'm-
us your name and your
Oh,
address too?
I'm Sandy, and I live at 1875 East Kachina Drive.
Okay.
And I am thrilled that you're considering an indoor heated pool. I taught water aerobics at LA Fitness for 10 years, and it has closed a few years ago. And the only indoor pool is in Chandler that we could use. And I taught water aerobics, and a lot of senior citizens and people, and the swimming is just not for physical, it's also for people's mental health. And also a social thing that they get to meet people. And I've never been at a pool where you don't see people smiling, you know. And I know I go to the beautiful aquatic center we have now, the outdoor one is fantastic, you know, and I go there very much. And I just am thrilled that this is going to be up for a vote. And my students have been waiting for this for so long.
Thank you, but I know the concept that is on there is not an indoor. It's not indoor, is that correct, Danny? As far as the design?
That is correct. All the valley pools are
It's
outdoor
heated.
facility, but heated.
Heated, but not-
year-round. Same with
not
Maricopa and all the other pools, Scottsdale, Mesa, they're all heated pools.
Okay,
Okay.
Year-round.
Thank you.
okay, thank you. Another quick question. You give us your name and address really quick.
Name's Eric Rivera, 1750 East Ocotoa Drive, Casa Grande, Arizona. I just wanted to ask, what information can we get out to the public? I mean, just like what this lady just said, Aquatic Center, my aunt, we own an insurance business here for 48 years, and my aunt, one of our workers, actually has to drive up to Chandler to the indoor facility because she used to go to that one. So I know how hard that is. But for the fields wise, I know it's a big budget, but I just ask you guys to think about, unfortunately, I've been in this community all my life, for good and for bad. So I know I know how important it is to have youth sports here. There's not many youth sports, especially for girls. There's not a lot of them. All the fields, once they get up to the older league, there's not a specific girls soccer league here. There's so they all have to share the fields. Softball and baseball, we have to share the fields. You have Cal Ripken, you have Babe Ruth, you have Little League, then you have your softball teams, and most of us have to go out of town to coach our girls. I just need to know what we need to do as a community to get it out there. And then also to take into account if our girls and our kids are out there playing football. And as much as we're growing at such a substantial rate. We got more kids than we have fields or things for them to do. And I always tell Matt and a couple other people that if we don't have things for kids to do, they're just going to be more problems for our police officers. And I don't know about you, but I don't want the police raising my kids. I would like for something for them to do. And there's just youth sports generates, not only does it generate accountability, but it also teaches teamwork. It strengthens self-confidence and everything so that they can do better and come back to our community and get to college and be productive citizens. So just so you guys know that if you just let us know what we got to do as a community to get that out there. So
Do you want to tell them as far as what people can do?
Well, Madam Mayor, what I would encourage is for perhaps them to attend the May 5th regular meeting. That'll be
Yes,
during the regular
that would be
meeting.
helpful.
And we can ultimately There are some specific regulations, and I'll let the city attorney, Mr. Wallace, go into more depth if we'd like to, but there are some specific regulations. I think that if there's a group of individuals that want to support this, it's best that they perhaps meet with our city clerk and just understand what may need to be necessary for them to be supportive of this.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Sure. Really quick, we have our next study session here. Give us your name really quick.
Sal D'Alessandro, 514 East Dragon Springs. I just want to bring up the economic impact that a lot of these, I've dealt with Danny for quite a while and dealing with the fields. It is a pain to get fields here, unfortunately. I represent just under 100 girls here, club softball. But the economic impact, I deal with Danny's counterparts in 9 other cities, in Mesa, Tempe, in Maricopa, and the economic impact that it's bringing in at Legacy and at Rose Moffett and all the other facilities on a weekend basis. It's going to be big for the city of Casa Grande. I know that a lot of these tournament directors, they're trying to get into these other cities. So us putting a facility like this, just on the baseball, softball side, having Perfect Game and PGF and Alliance, Triple Crown, these other, these organizations that come in, that's something also to leverage, to be able to, to utilize that the public needs to know about as well.
Yeah.
And along with the softball stuff, or the soccer stuff, it's huge as well. And the economic impact is gonna help our local businesses.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please come to the meeting next, on May 5th. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close this one and move on to the next study session.
And
Agenda
Madam Mayor, if
item.
I can make
Yes.
an introduction of Lieutenant Scott Shervin and our Supervisor Sharice Shanafelt. I know the Mayor and Council is aware of a lot of the work that's been going on in our Animal Care and Adoption Center, and I felt that we had made some strides that ought to be outlined to the Mayor and Council in a formal presentation, so I'll hand it over to these two to go through their presentation.
All right, for those that have not met her yet, to my right is Cerise Shanafelt. She's our animal control supervisor. And to begin with, let's see if I can get this right. Okay, I started off on a good note then. Our animal control staffing, currently we have 1 full-time animal control supervisor, 3 full-time ACO officers, a kennel tech, 2 part-time kennel techs, and 2 volunteers. Currently we have 1 opening, and if everything goes right, we're also going to have another position added for animal control officer in July. And in May, we are doing interviews for animal control officer, and we're hoping that we'll be able to fill both those positions off that list. As of February, we started with the DocuPet and online licensing. Thanks to Chief McCrory for that, because he didn't like going down to animal control and physically having to get his license down there. And it's much easier to do this online now. So in February, we started this. And our hopes is that we'll have more people become compliant with our animal licensing to make it easier for them to be able to get animal licenses. And in addition to the animal licenses, they can also get their dog tags, they can get designer tags, and they can even get like GPS tags. And it also provides different things where it's like a 24/7 hotline where you can call in if your dog is lost. And if anybody finds that, they can call that in. Like if you find a lost dog and you see this dog tag and you call it in, they can notify the owner that, hey, your dog's been found. Our initiatives, we already discussed the online licensing. I want to thank Heather, our PIO, city PIO. She's helped us greatly with the media campaign and marketing. Redesigned our logo that you saw on the first slide, and we're in the process of getting new uniforms in to highlight those logos, and we also got them new badges. I'm sure Councilman Huddleston remembers the old badges that they had. So they're getting a completely new look. Our PIO is highlighting some of the events that we're doing to try to get the word out when we're doing
TNR, which is trap, neuter, and release, and some of our medical procedures we do for the animals as far as spay and neuter, and also some of the adoption events. And we also try to get out at Public Safety Day and the 4th of July just to get out there and meet and greet with the public. One of our big things that Cerise actually was involved in is building relationships with our rescues around the state. They have helped us tremendously as far as being able to take some of our animals that otherwise would have not been adopted. The only issue that we have with that is just like them, they only have so much room. So, and we're competing with all the other animal shelters in the state to be able to get those turned over. We're striving to continue to improve on our animal save rate. And in 2024, our save rate was 80%. And so far this year, we're at 97%. ACOs, one of the things that we started, I believe it was roughly 2 years ago. Everybody, once they're off probation, is required to become ACO 1 and ACO 2 certified online trainee through a National Animal Control Association. And they're also required to go to online and do a practical for euthanasia before they actually start participating in that. Another one that I really want to highlight is that we're the second agency in the state to be licensed under the Arizona State Vet Program. Basically, to get our different types of drugs, you get usually a veterinarian. Well, we're licensed under the state. They had to come down and actually do an audit of our facilities. We weren't that far off, but they had us change some of our documentation and such. And now we are operating under their guidelines. And then they come down once a year and they audit us to make sure that we're following those guidelines. And so we operate underneath the state vet. So that was a big accomplishment by Cerise to get that done. CIP projects, our current ones, I'll start with the security cameras. We currently have those being installed as we speak. The need for those was, unfortunately, we were having people come to the animal control facility, and once in a while we would get criminal damage, but more concerning to us was people that would come during the weekend or overnight, especially during the summertime when it's hot, and they would just tie up animals outside, and they would be unsupervised. And with these cameras, they should be able to send an alert if we got movement so we can check. Then if we see somebody doing that, we can, either one of them can respond or one of the officers can go grab the animal and take them inside the shelter. The new animal control vehicle, we're due for replacement. The issue we ran into that is the box for the animal control truck. That was 16 months backlog for the build. So right now we got it pushed back, and it looks like December or January of later this year is when that box is going to be completed where we can actually start the build. Then the big one that we had was install AC units into the kennel and to the cat room. As Larry stated earlier, prices have gone up, and we were hoping to do a couple other things to the front office, but due to construction increase costs and the fact that these AC units aren't just regular commercial ones, they have to recirculate air more often than regular AC units. Those costs went up, so we're hoping to get that, and we're in the process of getting bids to take a look at having those installed, and hopefully in the next 3 to 4 weeks we'll get those bids and be able to see where we're at. The other thing that we worked with the PIO, or actually she did it all, is the mural project. We're getting that ready to go, and we got some meetings scheduled, I think, later this week, or is it this week?
I think it's this week.
It's this week to be able to get that project kicked off. ACO kennel capacity, this is actually an important slide. As I'm not going to go over too much of the first couple of things because everybody knows our city is growing and it's going to keep growing. But we have 46 kennels and 77 kennels for cats. And if you look at the average number of dogs in our kennels was 49 in 2024, highest count being 55. And then with the cats, it was 38, with the highest being 85. In 2025 so far, we're running with 52 dogs in the kennel, and the highest count being 53. So we're regularly running at or above capacity, and I'll actually be discussing something in just a couple of minutes as far as what we're looking for in that area. Community engagement in these are just an example of some of the events that we went out that I talked about. We had Community Safety Day, Paw Perfect Grooming and Adoption Event, Crossroads Church Adoption Event, Tractor Supply Adoption Events, low-cost vaccinating clinics. And so you can see that list. I'm trying to save some time. You can see some of the other events that we've done. And in 2025, we've got Community Safety Day. I think that already came and went. And we got some other things scheduled as well. Calls for service. When you look at, we've had an increase of calls for service, which actually come with the increase of population from 2023, 12,800, and 2023, 2024 it went up, and you can also see our first quarter, and you can also see our licenses sold. And when we talk about overall calls for service, we're not just talking about people that call into our dispatch center. These are people that actually call directly into animal control and our walk-ins. And and that also, if we get some inquiries via email at that point in time. Total impounds, 2023, we had 835. 2024, we had 1175. And so far this year, 195. And the important slide here is our rescues. 465 relayed to rescues in 2023, 2024, 524. And so far this first quarter, 102 sent to rescues. Those rescues really do make a difference. Next slide is total adoptions. And the unfortunate slide is total euthanized. It's a necessary evil. I know a lot of people want animal control to be a no-kill shelter, but that's almost impossible to do because you do have to deal with sick, injured animals, and also you have to deal with vicious and animals that have attacked people. And that's one of the rules that we have at Animal Control is we are not going to adopt an animal that comes into our facility that has attacked a person. Next slide, we do the total TNR, trap, neuter, and release. These are for cats. And we're hoping to be able to increase that because one of the things that we found is, you can't just go in and remove cats and either send them to rescues or euthanize them at that point in time because they're territorial. If you got a group of cats in an area that's already working as a team, they're going to keep other cats out. So to be able to control the population better is the TNR, and we do that mostly through grants at this point in time, through our low-cost clinics. Citations and warnings, those are self-explanatory, and if anybody's wondering why our citations are low, it's because we usually only cite people who are chronic offenders because from Animal Control's perspective, we believe in education. This one here, our future CAIP projects. One is paving the back parking lot. It's looking a little rough, our side that didn't get paved. In the back to the west of the kennel facility, we have an open piece of land next to our other outdoor runs. We'd like to add some more kennels or dog runs there to be able to exercise more animals. And what we're also looking for is a new combined and office building to be built just west of the current facility because we have property just to the west of it, and it would be best to keep anything that was built in the future on the same property so staff doesn't have to go to two different locations. Plus those dog runs that we want to increase, if the building is built in that location, we'd be able to use those dog runs for both facilities. And to leave with that, I just want to say thank you for your time, and we appreciate everybody's efforts when it comes to animal control. Any questions at this point, or Larry?
Questions? Comments? I just want to thank you for everything, and those numbers are just surprising to me. You have 16,000 total calls last year is just amazing. But But no, we see the work you do, you know, it's definitely a challenge. I know that, do you work with, I know there's that Facebook page that has Cascran Lost and Found Dogs, or is that what it's called? Something like that. Do you work with whoever manages that site or anything? Because I know there's a lot of communication going back and forth with lost dogs, and it's been really, really helpful. I know I found a dog and took it home and posted it on there, and the people found it like within an hour. So do you work with the person that has that site?
We try to stay off Facebook
Okay.
for everybody's sake.
Right, okay.
But we do peruse it quite a bit. So,
Okay.
you know, if we see that we have a dog that's lost on there, we find a way to get that voice to those people.
Okay, as
Yeah.
long as you're monitoring it, because I know
Yes.
it
Yes.
is very helpful. You had the growth in this city. Are we way higher than most cities, or is that just how it is across all cities nowadays? Especially after COVID, because I heard after COVID, some of the numbers were increasing in kennels. Is that correct?
Well, one of the things right after kennel, the unfortunate truth is a lot of people that got animals to keep themselves company while they were at home, got rid of their animals and abandoned them at that point in time. But we haven't done a study to comparable cities as far as their numbers.
Yeah, I was just curious if you knew. So, no, thank you. And when it comes to outreach, please check out the dog park. There's so many dog lovers are there. Even if we put some type of closed-in case, you know, that shows pictures of dogs that are up for adoption. And,
Great
you know,
idea.
there's regulars that go there. There's people that are visiting, new people to town. So I think those are people that love dogs. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
so nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. So we'll go ahead and close. Should we break for maybe 5 minutes or so? So we'll go ahead and break for 5 minutes. So I'm going to run up really quick to my office. Oh, that was loud.
With authority.
Sorry about that. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome and thank you everyone for being here this evening. We'll go ahead and start. Is there anyone from the Faith Alliance here for the prayer? If not, we'll have Councilmember Edwards, if you would be so kind to say the invocation, and then if you're willing and able, if you can stand. Oh, you're with the Faith Alliance? Sure, okay, perfect. We're so sorry, we weren't sure. If you can give us your name and tell us which church you're from, we would appreciate that, if whoever would like to stand, if they're willing and able.
I'm Bob Skyer. My parish is the St. Anthony of Padua.
Thank you.
In the 6th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verse 10 contains perhaps the most profound 4 words in Holy Scripture. A prayer commonly known as the Lord's Prayer states, "Thy will be done." When we say these words, we pray that God will handle every situation in the way He deems best. Let us therefore, during this meeting, strive to defer to Him and let Him know that we desire His will be done as decisions are made to better the lives of all Casa Grande residents, especially those deprived of the basic necessities of life. May the good Lord's grace and guidance descend upon us so as we may better understand and do His holy will during this meeting and all future meetings. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you, Matt. Okay, Adriana, if you can please accept for the record that all the council is here.
So noted.
Okay. And first on the agenda is the minutes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move to consider approval of the minutes for the City Council meeting dated April 7th, 2025, and accept for the record the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Special Meeting of March 6, 2025, the regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of March 6, 2025, and accept for the record the minutes of the Board of Adjustment for March 11, 2025, as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion on any of these? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The claims against the city.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve the list of claims for April the 2nd through April the 15th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion on the claims? Not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Meeting agenda approval. Any changes on the agenda from anyone?
Madam Mayor, we have no changes this evening.
Okay, I can get a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a special presentation. We're not going to let you leave, Paul. I'll go ahead and step down here. We didn't want to do this, Paul, but we had to, I guess.
Had to.
There you go.
See, can I take this off? Anyways, as you all know, Paul Tice retired last week, I guess it was, right? So he's back this evening, but tonight we're recognizing and honoring Paul Tice, who retired last week at the city's planning and development director after 15 years of service. Way back on March 22nd, 2010, Paul relocated from Colorado and began his duties here in Casa Grande. When I think back over my 14 years on the City Council and reflect on the growth and development issues that became before us, Paul was certainly center stage with those, helping us as elected officials to chart the best course for our future. It hasn't always been easy, but you have uplifted the highest standards of professionalism in doing your job every day. It is something said that working in local government, and especially in the city government, affords an individual a unique and special opportunity to make a positive impact and a positive difference in a community. I and we as a council believe that Paul's legacy as our Planning and Development Director for the past 15 years is true to that idea. Paul, you have made a positive difference. So what's more to be said? You will be missed, and on behalf of my fellow council members, the city staff members in your department and beyond, and the citizens who you have served over the past 15 years, congratulations on your retirement. All the best to you in the next chapter of your life. Congratulations.
Can I say a few words?
Sure.
I won't take 3 minutes. I guarantee it. Well, first I want to say thank you, Mayor Fitzgibbons and members of council, for this recognition. It means a lot to me. When I first took the job as Planning and Development Director, I thought I'd stay for 5 years. But here it is 15 years later. I discovered that for me, the secret to job satisfaction was to have strong value alignment between myself and the organization for which I worked. I found that here in Casa Grande. Due to the great people I've had the pleasure to work with, I actually look forward to coming to work each day. I had a running joke with Larry that having 2 bad days in a row would motivate me to retire. That never happened. But now it's the time in my life to turn the page and pursue new adventures and experiences. I will be traveling for the next 6 months, but plan on returning in the fall and being a seasonal resident. After that, it's one day at a time. One thing I'm going to miss is knowing what new developments are about to occur in Casa Grande, what is next to be constructed. I guess I'll have to rely on Facebook, like everyone else, for that information. I want to thank my talented planning department staff for all their hard work. I couldn't have accomplished anything without them. It's hard turning over a department that you have led, coached, and mentored for 15 years. But I'm grateful that we were able to hire Dan Coxworth as the new Planning and Development Director. The department and the city is in good hands with Dan. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to do what I could to improve the image and character of Casa Grande and improve the quality of life for our residents. I will end with a saying I often close out meetings with, that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We have a couple board openings, if you're interested. Okay. We'll talk to you in 6 months. Thank you. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to pull anything from the consent agenda? From the council? Staff? Anyone? Anything? Or anyone from the public? Okay.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I would move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Bedell,
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Holston,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, next item is public comments. This is the time if anyone would like to address the council. I do have 2 speaker cards, and I don't know if these are for the public hearing. They are? Oh, they already spoke? Both of these guys are? Eric and Sal? Okay, so that was from the study session. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this point? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is I-1.
This evening, I'm asking Kim Owensby, our wastewater superintendent, to present this item, so.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff recommends that Mayor and City Council authorize the City Manager to execute a contract with Wilson and Company in the amount of $1,857,020 plus an additional contingency of $250,000 for a total amount not to exceed $2,107,020. This contract will provide for design and construction management services for the water reclamation facility, Phase 4B, Stage 1 upgrades. The Phase 4B improvements are intended to upgrade the facility, supporting the Phase 4A capacity expansion to provide long-term reliability, operability, and safety. It will also reduce long-term operational costs, including power, maintenance, and chemical usage. A few of the Phase 4B improvements will include a new administration building and expanding our laboratory capabilities at the WRF, also converting an equalization basin into an emergency storage only. Reducing chemical usage by switching to ultraviolet disinfection, and enhancing odor controls at the plant, as well as removing existing piping, tanks, equipment that were abandoned from previous upgrades. We'll also develop some accurate survey records, drawings for us for the entire plant, for us to be able to use in the future and as we're providing maintenance. So the Phase 4 Stage 1 includes a background investigation, preliminary design and services, CMAR selection, and some long lead time equipment purchase assistance. With that, I want to say that there will be a Phase 4B Stage 2 that will be coming. This is just what we're handling with this current budget. Obviously, once evaluations is done, we will be moving on and needing to complete that Stage 2, which will include a final design and permitting and construction, as well as construction administration. So, again, Stage 2 is not part of what we're looking at now. That will be coming separately to council at a later time. And obviously, we will not begin any of that work without, obviously, a written approval. So Public Works selected an appropriate qualified consultant, Wilson and Company, for this project through the nonprofit National Governmental Purchases Cooperative. So I'm going to pause right there because I have a feeling you might have some questions, so I'll try and field those for you. So,
Okay. Any questions? Comments?
Why
Brad?
just stop staring? Everybody says it.
Okay.
How'd you know? So, got 2 questions. This does plan to go out as a CM at risk contract for the construction component. Is that correct?
Construction management. So we would then go through the process of bringing a contractor on board for that portion of it.
But is it going to be procured as a CM at risk, or is it going to be a hard bid?
That would be our preference is CM.
CM at risk?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess how far along are we going to let the design progress before selecting that CM at risk contractor?
We've not really had that conversation with our consultant yet. I don't know, Brian, or excuse me.
James.
James is here tonight.
Is.
Do you have any response to that?
But as far as 30%, 50% design, much sooner than 30%. Okay, that's, I just wanted to confirm that, okay, I'm good with that then.
Any more questions? I just have a question, if you can, oh, I'm sorry. If you can clarify, like, the big picture. So we're in phase 4.
4A right now.
Right, and so, I mean, this is like this has been, all these different phases have been going on for how long now? Can you give a quick summary?
Couple years.
Yeah, I mean, just quick, not detailed for the new council members, and just give us an idea of the big picture and where it's.
So with 4A, it's taking our daily treatment capacity from 12 MGD up to 18 MGD. We've done work in the influent pump station. There was also a structure that was built upstream that tied it, the lift stations that are on both the east and the west sides. There's been upgrade on the effluent pump station as well. We've done some odor controls and solids. And then we will also have the media fixed film media that we're implementing into the aeration basins in order to basically enhance our treatment capacity rather than building actual structures. So with that, we've had to put in some screens in order to be able to collect that media so that we don't waste it out and be able to return it back into the plant after it gets through a certain process.
And as you may recall, when Wilson did their presentation in the study session, they talked about phase A was the things we needed to get done to get that capacity in place so that we can continue to want growth in our community and accept that growth in our community. But it was a fast-track project to make sure we hit all of our deadlines, and that was the phase A. So phase B is everything else we probably should have done at that time, but we just didn't have the time to wait for that full design. Okay. So this will take our design to our full design and finish building the additional, and when I say capacity, additional hydraulic capacity of our plant. And I think there was some confusion along the way that we would be increasing our permitted capacity. We are not. 18 MGD is our permitted capacity. The hydraulic capacity improvements are going to give us the ability to accept up to 36 million gallons a day at one time and still be able to have the plant stay online without any issues. So it builds that ability for us to manage those peaks and ebbs and flows that happen with the different flows. Like if everybody flushed the toilet at the same time, we have to take it. So that's what that builds in. And
Right.
we did not do that with phase A.
Got it, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I compare it to rush hour traffic. The streets can handle typical flows, but every once in a while you get that rush of traffic.
Right.
We get rushes of wastewater.
Right, okay. So time out when you flush the toilet. Okay, yes, question.
And then just to thank you guys, it's a big piece of infrastructure we have to spend a lot of money on, but you don't get to see it. It's not glamorous by any means, but it's very important when you do flush the toilet that it works, right? So, and bear with us with all the improvements. And, you know, another thing that we don't talk about a lot is our economic development piece, because without a certain sewer line along Burris Road that a council before us put in, we wouldn't have a lot of the industry we have, and now we have to be able to take those flows from the industry. So it's a big economic development, very important to have a good sewer system, wastewater treatment system, right? Sorry. Because it does help with economic development. It's very important. You don't realize how many groups we talk to, and that's one of their first questions is, can you handle our outflows? So keep it flowing. Thanks.
Yes.
I was just going to say too, as well, with all the work that we're doing on Courtson Road, everybody be patient. That's all part of it, but we have to have that main station ready to handle that. It has to have the upgrades. And so, and I'm glad we're talking about it again in another phase, and we'll be back with another phase, another stage. And so, and able to handle whether it's the industrial side, whether it's the east side. There's a lot of things going out that way as well. And so I know we have to have this in place. And so, and I think that's what Matt was alluding to as well. So I appreciate you all in the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think I heard ultraviolet light.
Yes, you did.
It's for
Is that
disinfection.
something we've used all along, or is that new?
No, that will be new. We use sodium hypochlorite to disinfect right now. We buy it in bulk and put it in our chlorine contact basin in order to achieve our disinfection.
And what does it do?
It basically disinfects the water so that it can be released out. But then when we do disinfect it, we also have to neutralize it with the sodium bisulfite. So doing it with ultraviolet in order to disinfect, we wouldn't have to worry about both of those chemicals.
Okay. My curiosity was based on the builder of my pool put one of those on and made a big deal out of it. And I thought it was a gimmick. You know, I thought, ooh, it's magic. But anyway, I appreciate that. Thank
Yes,
you.
go ahead, Brad.
Not a question, but for those of you who have not gone out, Kim and her staff do a wonderful job on tours. So if you don't know what 4B is, I recommend doing a tour with Kim and go see what it is.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if we can get a resolution number, please.
Resolution number 5764, resolution of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a proposal from Wilson and Company, Inc. to provide design and construction management engineering services for the Water Reclamation Facility Phase 4B Upgrade Stage 1 project, authorizing the expenditure of public funds and authorizing execution of a contract with or purchase order to Wilson Company, Inc.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve resolution number 5764 as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bedelin?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, item L1. Looks like you're up, James.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. So this item in front of you this evening is for a zone change to accommodate Copper Sky Assisted Living. It's a site about 2.5 acres in size located at the west end of East Crystal. The applicant is seeking approval of this zone change in order to develop the site for an assisted living facility for senior residents with memory challenges. There was a major site plan that has already been presented in front of Planning Commission that was approved contingent upon the approval of the zone change, but it is intended to accommodate two 9,000 square foot buildings with a total of 32 memory care units. The buildings will be single story at 23 feet in height with 36 parking spaces. I did mention 2.5 acres. It's actually a little smaller at 2 acres in size. Now, this project has already been developed. This is actually the second phase. The first phase lies to the south, and that first phase gets its access from Valerie Street. This development, phase 2, is going to get its access from Crystal Street. Both are accessed via Arizola to the east. Now, you are being asked to consider the zone change application this evening, but just a little bit of a background for you. Planning Commission at its March 6th meeting had already considered the conditional use permit in order to allow this type of facility in the R2 zone. In the current zoning, Urban Ranch, it does not allow this type of use, so it did need a zone change to R2, but then in addition to that, a conditional use permit specific for this type of group home use. And then a major site plan to approve for the layout of the buildings, the landscaping, the parking areas, etc. And there was also a preliminary plat approved. All of these were contingent on council's consideration of the zone change. Now, at an upcoming city council meeting, you'll be asked to consider a final plat for the project. And this here shows you the surrounding zoning. The bulk of the area, primarily to the east where the site gets its access, is zoned single-family residential. However, this site is zoned Urban Ranch. The request would put it into the R2 zoning, identical to the R2 zoning that accommodates the Phase 1 portion of the memory care development. We are asking or recommending conditions of record. That's what the CR is. And what the recommended conditions of record are similar to what was placed on the property to the south. And what that is that even though we are asking for R2 zoning, the principally permitted uses for this property shall be limited to single-family homes meeting R2 zoning standards. And the conditional uses allowed on this property shall be limited to assisted living or nursing homes meeting R2 zoning standards. So we do have the benefit of a major site plan already have been presented, because this site is not intending to develop for single-family home development, but we did want to indicate that just in case this plan never did go to fruition, there'd be some conditions of record on it prohibiting other more intense types of R2 development, such as duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, etc. In the R2 zone, there are specific setbacks that would need to be followed, and due to the benefit of having the major site plan already reviewed, we know that this proposed project well meets these setbacks. I do want to point out that the closest distance between the building and the nearest single-family residential property line is 115 feet. When reviewing zone changes, there are 3 criteria that are evaluated to ensure conformance with zoning and rezoning principles, and they all center around conformance with the general plan. The first one is the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and applicable elements. So I do want to call attention to guiding principle number 5, which is one of the land use elements, which is to support development on vacant infill lots that can be efficiently and effectively served by municipal services. This is a great opportunity to develop a hard-to-develop property, because as you can see, it's at the very end of a residential subdivision. It has some access challenges. It doesn't have direct access to Florence Boulevard. And so an assisted living facility is regarded as a low traffic generator, and so it won't impact the single-family neighborhood to a very great degree. It has less of a traffic impact as if it were to develop for single-family residences. And the type of architecture that is planned does have elements that look like a single-family home, a large single-family home, but it's limited to it. Here it's single-story. It has some craftsman architecture, and it does help blend in to that residential environment. The second criteria is a rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes densities and intensities within the range of identified uses of the general plan. So we look at how this is designated, and it sits within the community corridor land use designation, which does allow for high-density development up to 25 dwelling units per acre. However, this will not be the case. It fits well within that threshold. All developments adjacent to or across a local street from single-family residential, such as this case, shall be designed to be compatible with the adjacent single-family uses and to provide suitable transition to the more urban community corridor uses. So again, this is compliant because it is a relatively low traffic generator, since this site is reliant upon access via a local street such as Crystal. The third criteria is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. So this facility provides a valuable service to citizens with memory impairment and accomplishes this in a tucked away setting that will provide reprieve for its inhabitants while not greatly impacting the single family area abutting the site. We do regard this as an effective use of access challenged land that wouldn't be appropriate for more intense uses. And I just wanted to call attention to the fact that this site will have some internal circulation. That's not really a matter of zoning, but just out of curiosity in terms of, well, how do uses on this site fit? And so there will be access from Crystal Street while the existing development gets its access from Valerie. However, there will be a cut through between the lot to the north and the lot to the south by an access drive behind the building, so that there will be some internal circulation. That's helpful because in case someone, meant to turn on Crystal but didn't and turned on Valerie, they don't have to necessarily back up and go through the neighborhood to get back to the correct road. They can just cut through that shared access drive. And I do want to point out that the property to the west is a very thin strip of urban ranch zone property that sits between this site and Fiesta Grande, and it still is zoned urban ranch. But with the development of the first phase, there was an access easement granted, as indicated by that purple arrow to the left there at the bottom. So there is access to that parcel through an already recorded easement. And, although there are no plans for development of that urban ranch zoned lot, it does have access to get to it, and if it does happen to need a second point of access, there is opportunity to either work with Fiesta Grande further to the west or to the property to the north, or another access easement in the future with this subject property. But one was sufficient at this time for a very low density zone district. Regarding public notification, we met and exceeded that which is required by code. We did send out notification of these applications being considered for review, not only to property owners within 300 feet, but we also included every owner of property along Crystal Street because they were going to be the most affected. And then we did follow the other protocol. We did receive one inquiry by a resident with concern about misdirected traffic. Their observation was that vehicles traveling to the existing facility sometimes would end up on the wrong street, and they could see the facility, but they would just end up parking and walking to the facility because I guess they kind of gave up. And so what we imposed as part of the conditional use permit is that we would consider appropriate roadway signage indicating which roads were dead ends and which roads were through streets in order to maybe help thwart that issue. But that problem might work itself out now because there will be an additional street that has access to this development. So it'll limit the opportunities for vehicles to get turned around in there. At its March 6th public hearing, Planning Commission did unanimously move to forward to City Council a recommendation to approve this zone change from urban ranch to R2, subject to the following conditions of record, which I'd already reviewed, but essentially the principally permitted uses for this property shall be limited to single-family homes meeting R2 zoning standards, and conditional uses allowed on this property shall be limited to assisted living or nursing homes meeting the R2 zoning standards. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, it's a nice facility. The one
Yeah.
that's there is really nice, and this looks like it's going to be just like that one
Right.
too. And then I like also how you can access the new facility from the old facility.
Mhm.
Yes.
As James stated, you don't have to go down Crystal, around the corner, and back around. And so, but
Good. Any other questions?
Covered
It
all
is-
mine.
yeah.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here that would like to come up and speak on this item, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And if we can go ahead and get an ordinance number, please.
Ordinance number 1178.464, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance number 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from urban ranch UR to multifamily residential R2 on the property generally located west of the terminus of East Crystal Street, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move approval of ordinance number 1178.464 as presented.
Second?
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember B. Dillon?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, item L2.
So this item is also a zone change for Quick Trip. The zone change request involves 5 acres of property that is currently zoned urban ranch, and the requested zone district is PAD, or otherwise known as Planned Area Development, to accommodate a Quick Trip convenience store and auto fueling. The site is located at the southeast corner of McCartney and Tucker. So the property is currently zoned urban ranch, as you can see on the zoning map here. Urban ranch is a very low-density residential zone district. It primarily accommodates agricultural uses and single-family development on properties no smaller than 1.25 acres. In some situations, urban ranch is the intended zone district. However, in these instances, as you can see, it's surrounded by more intense zone districts. We consider urban ranch more of what we call a holding zone, because when the property was annexed into the city, it probably took on the most similar zoning that it was when it was in the county, which was general rural, with the idea that eventually as the area develops, requests would come in for a more intense zone, whether that be for commercial or a higher density residential development. And this site should not be totally unfamiliar to you. A little bit of background on this site. Back in October of 24, City Council had denied a zone change from urban ranch to planned area development. At that time, the request was to allow for a convenience store with no more than 3 diesel pumps to accommodate truck fueling. And it was denied, and there were concerns that the truck element would change the character of the area and it would exacerbate traffic on McCartney. As you can see on the associated plan with that zone change, they were providing fueling for trucks to the south of the store, highlighted in yellow, and then further to the south, highlighted in yellow, they were showing that there would be truck parking. And there was a lot of concern that that just really wasn't compatible with the residential neighborhood of that area. Now the planned area development zoning request has been modified. As you can see, they're planning to only utilize the north half of the site to accommodate a convenience store and fuel station. The south half of the site is designated in the planned area development zone for future commercial development that is to be subject to B2 uses, which is our general business uses. But specifically within the PAD guide, it does allow for convenience store with auto fueling as a by right use, but it does specifically prohibit fueling and any accommodation for diesel trucks. It indicates that convenience stores and fuel stations are specifically prohibited from providing showers, truck repair services, laundry services, truck washing, and customer parking longer than an hour. And that helps allay concerns that this is just phase one to propose a truck accommodations in the future. That doesn't happen to be the situation because this customized PAD zoning specifically prohibits those accommodations. Otherwise, B2 general business uses are permitted, and uses such as drive-through restaurants, car washes, self-storage would be subject to the consideration of a conditional use permit, just to give you kind of an idea of the types of uses permitted in B2. Otherwise, B2 is a general business, accommodates retail uses, offices, restaurants, and the like. The other thing that this PAD does is it limits signage or freestanding signage rather to be monument style only, not taller than 15 feet. And that because that had been another concern about having a fuel station use at this location if there would be really tall signs drawing attention from the interstate. There is a site plan that is currently under review, and it is scheduled for Planning Commission consideration at their May meeting. And what the site plan proposes is a 5,300 square foot convenience store at a height of 20 feet and a 7,200 square foot fuel canopy for auto fueling at a height of 22 feet. We have a really good opportunity here to have the major site plan under review at the same time as the zoning so that all of the reviewers and the public have an idea of what the intended purpose of the zoning is. Sometimes we get speculative zoning requests where someone has property, they know that they want to entitle it for commercial uses, but they don't have a specific user, so they really can't say what it is that they're specifically wanting, and it's hard to impose design requirements, et cetera, because they don't want to make the specifications so particular that it makes it hard to attract a user. But in this case, this site does have a user for the north half of the property, and we have that major site plan in for review. The elevations show masonry architecture on all 4 elevations. And then they also provided some details for the auto fuel canopy at a maximum height of 22 feet. When reviewing zone changes, and particularly involving zone districts that are to be PADs or planned area developments, these are the criteria that get evaluated, and I just want to focus on the 3 highlighted criteria. The first is that the proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. So even though this area is currently zoned urban ranch, it does lie within the commerce and business land use designation. Basically, from Tucker Road to I-10 is this commerce and business land use, and from Tucker Road west, that yellow area is the neighborhood's land use. Within the commerce and business category, it is designed to promote uses that can best benefit from Casa Grande's strategic location at the intersection of 2 major interstates with high visibility to traffic between Phoenix, Tucson, and California. And it goes on to say that Properties designated as commerce and business are located along interstates, parkways, and specific areas along major arterial roadways, such as how McCartney is designated, where auto-oriented uses are dominant. It goes on to say that the commerce and business category represents a strategic effort to place auto-oriented uses in appropriate environments, ensuring that the location of office, commercial, and light industrial and retail uses complements the community's urban design goals. Although the commerce and business land category does indicate that it accommodates auto-oriented uses, we are sensitive to the fact that it is right on the border of that neighborhood's land use designation. And so that is where there is really good opportunity to implement certain provisions to ensure that there is compatibility. And I'll talk about that a little bit on the upcoming slides, but within the commerce and business category, you'll see that commercial is listed as an appropriate land use, whereas within the neighborhoods category, it has a more limited amount of appropriate land uses. The neighborhoods category, again, is the area that's in yellow. You can still actually review and consider fuel stations and convenience stores in neighborhoods. That's why there's the presence of the Circle K Caddy Corner. But commercial sites are intended to be smaller, and in general, commercial is supposed to be more neighborhood in scale. The third criteria regarding compatibility with the general plan is that the action is consistent with the general plan's goals, policies, and applicable elements. So I want to turn to goal CB-4, create visibility without compromising attractive streetscapes or community character. And so as I mentioned, this is an auto-oriented type of use, but the way that the site plan under review helps make the auto-dominant use a little bit more compatible is by doing some subtle things such as putting the fuel canopy to the side of the SOAR. It sits to the west instead of the typical design where you see the fuel canopy in between the convenience store and the street. So it makes the architecture of the building, albeit it's a convenience store, the focus, not a fuel canopy. The other thing that I want to point out is that within our general plan, we do have a trail map, and identified within the trail map is the McCartney Trail that is shown to run in the future from Palomino Parkway to the west to Overfield Road, which is currently in the county, to the east. This site does accommodate that by providing a parallel DG path next to the public sidewalk that will do a couple of things. It helps make the built area a little bit further back from McCartney and creates more of a pedestrian and landscaped way between the public street and this auto-oriented use. The other criteria that I want to talk about is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. I had shared this map earlier, but this shows you the surrounding developments and zone designations. And there's not a lot of concern technically with the adjacency to anywhere except for when you go to the north and east, where you have the McCartney Center single-family residential planned area development area. However, the uses planned between that residential area and McCartney, on the north side of McCartney, are also designed and programmed for commercial uses. So staff does feel that this commercial use, given that it is catty corner and Tucker is a divider, does help with that compatibility. This arrow that is drawn in shows you the kind of just graphically the gap between where the start of the bridge over I-10 is to Tucker Road, which is approximately a quarter of a mile, maybe a little shy. Per ADOT rules, Tucker shall be the first street that is allowed full access. And that's probably why Tucker is that dividing line between commerce and business land use and neighborhood land use, because Tucker is designed to be the first street where there can be full movement, right ins, right outs, left in, left outs. And so having this type of use at this type of intersection is appropriate. But this segues into the last of the criteria, and it's probably the most lengthy, save the best for last, the traffic and vehicular ingress and egress. Because the issue with this site does tend to garner a lot of comments and concerns about traffic. And so I'll walk you through some of that, and I hope I don't get too buried in details. With the development of the site, there will be dedication of public right-of-way. We will get some additional right-of-way for McCartney. McCartney is designed to be a principal arterial road, so when it's at its full build-out, it'll be 140 feet wide, and it's designed in the future to be 3 lanes in each direction with a center median. Right now, that is not how McCartney looks, but we also don't have the right-of-way dedication, and the city is working on an improvement project that will improve McCartney from I-10 to Pinnell, which will include 2 through lanes in each direction. With the development of this site will come some developer-prompted improvements. And so with that comes the dedication. It's 70-foot half-street dedication for McCartney. They will also be dedicating right-of-way for the extension of Tucker. And then they're also going to be dedicating right-of-way for an east-west road on the south. Both the extension of Tucker and this east-west road is beneficial because it helps properties to the east and to the south gain access to Tucker, which is a very important access point because, as I mentioned, that's the first road where full access is allowed west of I-10. And I drew all those arrows in to show you that what a full access intersection looks like. You have straight movement, you have right ins, right outs, left in, left outs. Because of that, and because of what we know from the review of the previous proposal from Quick Trip, is that this intersection will be benefited from a traffic signal. And so as part of the PAD, they have stated, they being the applicant, stated within the PAD guide that the developer shall construct a traffic signal at the Tucker and McCartney intersection. And the signal is to be constructed, accepted by the city and operational prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the first development within this PAD zone. Now, there is an opportunity for this developer to seek reimbursement of impact fees through the issuance of traffic impact credits. So the way that would work is they would demonstrate that although they probably are responsible for the need for that traffic signal to a degree, they quantify what portion of that traffic signal is not their responsibility, what portion of that traffic is already existing that would be benefited from a traffic signal if they weren't constructing. And then we would be able to give them an offset to their impact fees and even potentially a development agreement to make them whole. So they're paying their fair share of the responsibility for the cost of that signal. Moving on, though, more about traffic, I'm about halfway through, is they are showing a access easement highlighted in yellow along the east side of the site. It's 30 feet wide. It's shared with the property owner to the east. This is helpful because that property to the east is very access challenged because it will not have the benefit of full access onto McCartney because of ADOT's requirements of proximity to an interchange. It will be reliant upon the right-of-way being to be dedicated along the south of the site going east-west, as well as Tucker going north-south. And that 30-foot access easement gives them a little bit more direct access, and it is designed to be a 3/4 intersection. What that means is you can go right in and right out, and you can actually go left in, you just can't go left out. And these are the improvements associated with the Quick Trip development, just to kind of better visualize what we're talking about. There will be some right turn lanes constructed to access Tucker Road going eastbound on McCartney. There'll be a right turn lane on eastbound McCartney to get to that access drive that's on the east side of the site. There'll be a left turn lane going westbound on McCartney to go south onto Tucker, as well as to go south onto that access drive. And there will be that traffic signal. And as I mentioned, the city is in design right now for a McCartney improvement project, where there will be improvements from I-10 to Pinnell. A close-up here shows you what that profile looks like. It does have to taper to one lane as you get closer to the bridge, because the bridge is only one lane, but it does taper then the other way into 4 lanes as you approach Tucker. And then just out of interest, as you go further west at Palomino and McCartney, there is a traffic signal soon to be constructed by the Flats multifamily development. They also were required to construct a signal prior to certificates of occupancy for their development, and they will also be making some adjacent improvements in that area. So a quick summary with regard to traffic is a traffic impact analysis had been previously accepted by the Arizona Department of Transportation and the then city traffic engineer. The new TIA to show the fuel station without the truck accommodations and a slightly smaller footprint is under review by our city traffic engineer consultant. But we do know that per the PAD, they are to construct a traffic signal, and there will be dedication made for a number of rights of way, and there will be roadway improvements for McCartney as well as Tucker. I do want to mention conformance with House Bill 2574. It's regarding an analysis of housing, and I just wanted to point out that this is going from urban ranch to a commercial zone that takes away the ability to accommodate housing. However, this was at the applicant's desire, and the general plan, Commerce and Business, does accommodate housing if the correct zoning was proposed. In this instance, they're not proposing any kind of residential component. Regarding the public notification process, we met with all that's required by the code. We did hold a neighborhood meeting earlier in the year. It was lightly attended. And, you know, I think the takeaway from it is that most people were happy that the truck element was removed, but they still had a lot of concerns about the traffic. They're not happy, they being the attendees and primarily residents from the McCartney Center neighborhood, are not happy about how narrow McCartney is and the need for an improved interchange. However, although it is, I think everyone agrees that that interchange is in need of improvements. Based on the traffic analysis, the addition of the Quick Trip isn't so intense that it moves the needle to where the interchange becomes inoperable. It still functions. It doesn't move the needle to where no development can be recommended for approval. Because the city does have a position that if the TIA is not acceptable, we cannot recommend approval of the development. More will be discussed on that when this item does go to Planning Commission for the major site plan component. This is the zoning element, of course. The major site plan focuses more on traffic because that's the actual implementation of the zoning and the very specifics of what's being proposed, and that traffic analysis is under review by the traffic consultant. With that, I do want to say that at the April 3rd public hearing of the Planning Commission, they did vote unanimously 7-0 to forward a recommendation to City Council to approve this zone change from Urban Ranch to Quick Trip PAD, subject to the following condition of record. The condition of record has to do with dedication of right-of-way. Ordinarily, we seek dedication of right-of-way at the time of development being proposed because they're going to be able to demonstrate they're putting traffic on the right-of-way, and that's our opportunity to get that right-of-way for that traffic to be put on. This condition acknowledges that we do have the ability to ask for right-of-way prior to, if needed for a city project. So that's helpful for our McCartney plans or for future Tucker plans in case that those rights-of-way are needed ahead of the time that they're actually planning to go forward with development. There were technical modifications that Planning Commission did subject their approval to. However, since their approval of this zone recommendation of the zone change, those technical modifications have been addressed. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bob.
I want to say I'm very glad that QT is back, and I'm glad that it is minus the truck fuel issue. The only question I have, James, is Tucker. As it progresses south, it obviously has to make a jog or a turn east because the alignment is way off. Is that going to cut into their property, or is that planned out yet? Or
Councilmember Huddleston, we don't exactly know what the ultimate alignment of a collector road through the undeveloped area will take. I went to this slide to kind of articulate it a little bit better. On the east end of the Marabella neighborhood down towards the bottom,
Okay.
they are planning to come in with a final plat for that single-family neighborhood of 250 residents where they are dedicating Tucker on their eastern development, eastern side of their plat. But if you notice, that's quite a bit offset from where Tucker and McCartney meet. So how the Tucker at the Marabella point and the Tucker at the McCartney point end up uniting is still not quite clear because it's going to be dependent upon someone going into that area, someone being a developer or the owner to master plan how they intend that circulation to work. So short of that or shy of that, we unfortunately have to do it kind of in a piecemeal manner, not knowing what uses are to come out of that area to remain urban ranch zoned. So what we've done in the interim is we are asking that at the south end of the Quick Trip property, they will be dedicating east-west right-of-way that will take access over to the property to the east, which is that McCartney Commons neighborhood to the east there. So there'll be an east-west road right-of-way along the south end of that subject site to bring access to McCartney Commons. Now, in the future, it's possible that Tucker proper will continue south where it currently is along the western end of the Quick Trip site. It may continue south. that east-west right-of-way may be there just as another street. We're not certain, but for now, that's the best way to ensure that there will at least be right-of-way to get development from the east over to Tucker and McCartney.
Okay, but the ultimate plan is that Tucker will line up with the development to the south.
Yeah.
Okay.
James, you had a slide, another slide that had the arrows where Tucker, it was going straight. They were blue. There's another slide you had. And I believe that'll probably help out with that question too. Because it looks like that Tucker Road's gonna come straight across.
Yeah.
You'll make that, so if I'm heading east on McCartney, I'll make that right turn in line with Tucker Road that's right beside the Circle K.
Oh, I think I know which.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because on there it had the arrows going straight across.
I'm almost
There you go, right there. Okay.
I have a better one.
So
there we go.
So I think with Bob's question, from that point of view, it looks like it's straight across. Is that where you at, Bob?
But you're wondering here, right?
No.
He's wondering about south.
On the south side,
South
of
of-
it, down at the bottom
south
of it.
of the development.
But up top is straight coming down Tucker. That'd be the entrance coming in. I would say also, I agree with Councilman Huddleston as well. I'm thankful for the QT coming back. Okay, I know our citizens have spoken, and you all listened. You went back and just moved some things around. We're right now, we're in the stages of developing McCartney Road. So that was key. With the understanding, I think ADOT's in charge of the bridge. So that's probably gonna look like Pinnell. When you go down Pinnell, you go to the freeway, it's one lane across over. And, right?
Yeah.
So it's still gonna look like that for a while because I know ADOT's concerned about I-10 right now. But just wanted to let QT know, thank you so much for coming back with this, removing the diesel piece of it. And so I like the setup here. It reminds me a little bit of the QT that's off of University. If you're going to the airport, make that right because the pump's on the side. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, Matt.
I don't want to beat the dead horse, but thanks for coming back. But it just goes to show the QT team and Mr. Greathouse and his team at Birch, Cracchiolo, listened to us and listened to, more importantly, the residents. And just so the people at the state legislature, we can actually work stuff out on our own at a local level. This is how it's supposed to go. You heard the concerns, you guys came back, didn't give up, and we didn't give up on you either. So we're happy to have you here. And to a T, most of the people that were against it the first time around said, I want a regular QT here, meaning what you're putting. So, hey, here's your regular QT. So thank you guys very much for coming back.
Sean.
I just got a quick question or comment. If all this is approved, we're going to have 2 traffic lights in a fairly close distance to one another. We got a lot of through traffic that's not necessarily stopping at the apartments or at the QT. Are those lights going to be able to be timed so that way through traffic is not having to stop at 2 lights as they're traveling westbound? Or
Councilmember
eastbound?
Dugan, as a traveler of McCartney Road myself, I would like to say yes, I hope so.
Please.
I don't know if Kevin Lewis is here. He might be able to speak to the
He
timing.
is, and he's nodding his
Yeah.
head.
Yes.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Great.
Yeah.
Elbows back. Knees together.
Any other questions? Sure, Becca.
What is the McCartney Improvement Project timeline?
Looking at Kevin, it looks like.
Just because I've had people express concerns about traffic, and
Right.
if you're on that road, it's not always the best to drive down. And now if we have something else that it's going to attract people off of the highway, we'll have even more traffic. So that was just a concern that was brought to me.
The first phase of McCartney is going to be from Pinal to Treckle, and we're trying to finish up the design on that so that we can bring the GMP back to council for approval. We have the CMAR in place. The other 2 segments, the one in front of the high school and then this segment from Peart to I-10, There are future phases, but we're trying to look at our funding, look at when we can get the, put the bonds on the street to sell those, and then program that out. But in the next 2 to 4 years, that's when we're going to be finishing that project.
And then,
Big range, 2 to 4 years.
yes, yes. And then we're looking at completing the QT in what timeline in comparison to that? Sure.
Hello, Council. My name is Daniel Chambers. I work for Quick Trip. I'm as a project manager for this site. Currently, we're looking at probably a little over a year or so, just with the timing of where we're at and everything. Because if we're fortunate enough for you guys to approve this project to move forward, then we have our second reading, then we have to go through our construction document and all of our bidding process and stuff. And so there is a significant amount of time for that. So we're still probably 1.5 to 2 years away from being able to open the store.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No, and I'm just going to comment, like my fellow council members, thank you for coming back. We were here during all of that, and we know you listened to the people. People were, said, all of us, how much we enjoy going into your stores. So we're just happy that you're back and you see that this is a good investment, and we're confident it'll be a pretty high-performing store for you. I mean, there's so much traffic there, and people like your store and what you provide there. So we're, I'm happy to have you back here, so thank you. Okay, any other questions? Oh, so I guess it is a public hearing. We haven't gone to that yet. So is there anyone here that would like to come up and speak on this? It's a public hearing. No? Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and if we can get an ordinance number, please.
Ordinance number 1178.465, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance number 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from urban ranch UR to planned area development PAD on property generally located at the southeast corner of McCartney Road and Tucker Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I would like to move to approve ordinance number 1178.465 as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, then if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Beadle?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbon?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. And thank you again for coming. And thank you to the staff too, James and everyone, the staff are working together. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, so.
Good reports.
Yes, reports. Why don't you start, Matt?
Okay. I have a few things to say. First of all, I would like to thank Anthony's time and Mr. Scott McCune and the LDS Church for inviting me to the Easter pageant in Mesa, and I won't do it all because some other of my fellow council members were there, but I got to take my mom, and it was fantastic again. So the budget retreat was actually very good. Thanks to Larry and staff for making it as painless as it possibly can be for the budget. And we've got some great information. And I'm happy to report that the Youth Commission completed their annual or semi-annual day of shredding on Saturday and shredded almost a whole truck of paper and recycled electronics and brought in about $2,000 to the generous donations of the community. And we'd like to thank First American Credit Union for their sponsorship of that event, and also the Public Works Department. They had a great crew out there with the e-cycle and helping us with cardboard and bringing extra containers for us. So teamwork makes the dream work, as we say on the Youth Commission. So thank you guys very much.
Good, thank you.
My mother left a church event to go drop off shreds.
All right.
Didn't want to miss it. Okay, Anthony, how about you?
Important.
This coming Thursday, the 24th, Firehouse 503, grand opening, 9:30 a.m. Right? 9:30. Plan on being there. And that's it. That's it for me for now.
Okay.
Well, you got mine, so. No, no reports were made then.
Okay, how about Bob?
I plan to attend the open house at the fire station, very much looking forward to that. The budget retreat was grueling, but we all survived, so thank you.
With headaches, all of us.
Especially there.
Okay, Brent.
Busy week, but I don't know what everybody's complaining about. I thought the budget retreat was great. I enjoyed it. No, it's all good information. I'm kind
Numbers.
I'm kind of a nerd that way, numbers. Couple things, went to Terminus Day last Saturday. Not a great turnout, but there were a lot of people that were doing the tours, and I think it's going to be something that really grows. I think timing was a little off this year with Country Thunder and a very, very warm day that day, but I think that's going to turn into a great event. That was good. Also went to the Easter pageant. Also took my mother.
So beautiful, isn't it?
It was a great show. And then Friday night, I went to an event up at the state capitol called Two Lights for Tomorrow, which was the 250th anniversary of Paul Revere's ride, followed by Saturday being the shot heard around the world when the British regulars first met the militia and exchanged gunfire. So over the next year or so, a group called America 250 is going to be doing lots of different events throughout the year as we come up into the 250th anniversary of the birth of this great country. So look for that. There should be quite a few events coming out, but it's America 250, and I'm kind of hoping that the city will get involved in a couple of those things. I know the replica Liberty Bell is going to be traveling through the state, but it's a great event. So that was a really cool event to see right until the rain started. And then looking forward to Thursday morning, 5:03. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Becca?
So I was able to attend Terminus Days as well, and I heard there was a really good turnout for the tours, so that's good.
The tours were a good
I
turnout.
think it'll be good as we move forward with it. I was able to attend the Easter pageant as well with my mom. We all brought our moms. It was amazing. It was not planned by me. I don't know if it was planned by you guys or not.
Well,
And then I dropped off some shredding as well, and I got to see the Youth Commission. It's always great to see those kids. They're amazing. I'm always so very impressed with them. And the budget retreat was long but interesting, and so it was always good to learn a little bit more about the city and all of the great things that we're doing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So I went to the Easter pageant, not with my mom. My husband went with me. But it is such a beautiful event, and it just reminds us of what Easter is all about. And so I hope everyone had a beautiful day celebrating what it is, Easter. But I do want to send my condolences, of course, to the Catholic community for the loss of Pope Francis. Obviously, a leader in the Catholic Church, and the first Latin American Pope, and so it's crazy to feel. He was served. I watched that on TV and his blessing, and then the next day. So, but anyways, just a lot of people mourning for his passing. So. So let's see, as far as activities, the Leadership Academy, thank you to our PIO team and Scott Barber for everything you do with keeping that going. And, so many people, the graduation was last week, and, everyone leaves that program and are just so excited to hear what the city's doing. They're impressed with what we do, with our staff, all the tours, everything, all of the department heads that take the time to educate and work with that group. It's just really a good program. So it was a very, very nice ceremony. There was also Steve Miller, our county supervisor, had a town hall last week, and I appreciated him doing that here at the Recreation Center. He brought County Attorney Brad Miller and Sheriff Teeple and Dana Lewis with the Elections Department, and it was really kind of like a Q&A. They just all of them kind of gave an idea of what they're doing, of some of their focus areas, and just getting input from the community. So it was kind of a light crowd, but it was nice for him to do that. I'm happy to see, just as it's important for us to continue to be in front of people and getting ideas and feedback. Mesquite School had, and the library, Amber does such a great job also at the library and the Arts and Culture Commission. There's a 5th grade art exhibit at the library right now. And if you guys have a chance, just pop in there. It's in one of the classrooms, and the artwork from these 5th graders is amazing. And so, Danny, again, Amber, your group does a great job, and it was such a nice event. There was, I believe, 45 artists, something in the 40s, and their parents that were there, and they had refreshments and an exhibit, and it was really, really nice. So, if you have a chance, pop in the library to see that. Events, we all are looking forward to the fire station. Chief, we're ready, so hopefully our expectations are going to be met when we come on Thursday. And then also this weekend is the Dia de los Niños event at Paul Mason Sports Complex. It's, children's activities, entertainment, activities, food. Please come out. It's going to be a beautiful day. Support our community services department. It was a wonderful event last year, very kid and family friendly, so please bring your kids out, and it's free. It's a free event. Come on out from 11 to 2 o'clock. And the budget, just thank you to all the staff. Brenda, thank you, to your staff. This is just your 2nd year. Last year you were brand new doing this, but, just thank you for just the organization and the presentation, and for Larry and all of the staff members. We all know the difficult times that you all go through, and, we're trying to, increase, levels of service while maintaining, low property taxes and everything, with the growth that's going on. So a lot of challenges ahead, but, I think we're all feeling pretty good about where we're going. So thank you to everyone with that. And then finally, I did receive a notice. There is an opening on the Arts and Culture Commission. So if anyone is interested, those meetings are the first Tuesday of every month at 4 o'clock. So if you're interested, go on to the city clerk's website and apply by May 2nd, if anyone is interested in that. And then, what is this? The community meeting for the hazardous waste storage permit application. Community meeting on Tuesday, April 29th at the Casa Grande City Hall chambers, here from 6 to 7:30 p.m. So, questions on hazardous waste permitting, learn battery recycling issues, other issues of concern. So, please feel free to come by. And with that, anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the meeting. We adjourn. Thank you. Everyone, good night.